this Dave Chappelle calling out DJ Khaled was amazing. DJ Khaled?
Yeah.
It was amazing,
It's
right?
like, for all your noise that you make,
Yeah, and he's like,
you're pretty quiet.
He's like, you're the only fat Palestinian on the planet. You know what I mean? Right? Yeah. I mean, it's brilliant. You know what I mean? Like, what's the difference? What's the difference between a cow and 9/11?
What?
You can't milk a cow for 14 years.
For the most part, even I was saying, I don't know if guys are gonna show up. Do guys still have the momentum of last year? Has the temperatures cooled? Have these guys kind of scared the masses? And then we saw Thika Road, and then we saw Kiambu Road, and then we saw town.
This thing went citywide.
If I go through an experience like that, 2 weeks later, you're not gonna see me. I'm just gonna be reclusive for a while.
And think about if you want to come out or not with that
With
story.
that story in particular.
Not coming out with the story, and then just the experience.
Like employee-wise, if you ask any international-based company, who would they hire in East Africa? The first pick is always a Kenyan.
Because it's expertise and work ethic.
Bro, we're hard workers, man. I mean, not to shit on Tanzanian and Ugandan, but if you compare the
Let's
work,
shit on them. They're fucking slow, bro.
Kenyans
Put Kibe on the screen saying you don't even want that fucking English.
Let me take Uganda. The president is almost dying. They might as well. And who wants that stupid English they speak there?
Every other time with Eric, back for another trio episode. Like I said, 2 legends in the building, like I said. FAREED Khimani is here. Sajid VAYANI is here. I just love doing that. Sajid VAYANI, FAREED Khimani.
You don't have any black friends.
No black friends.
And speaking of that, the Kibe comments are going to come back on this one. Where's Kibe? Where's Kibe?
Yeah.
Yeah, but trio episodes is going to be something we're doing. It's just going to be diverse. Otherwise, how you guys doing? How's your week?
Okay, I'll start. Week was good. It's been crazy. When I was here visiting you in June, we just opened up our treatment center, and it somehow is just...
Apparently, the podcast got it jumping, guys.
Yeah. He's looking for a commission. I'm telling him that I'm going to charge him for every new subscriber that podcast got him.
But that was a really good episode.
It was fun.
My brother here actually was like, he called me. He was like, yo, FAREED is not an asshole.
Yeah. Well, the first thing he said to me when I walked in today, he's like...
I was like, when I saw him, I'm like, you were an asshole in my mind. But then I watched every other time with Eric, and he changed my perception. But you see, the thing is, it's also that Mwindi aspect when... I don't know why. Do you feel like Windis have things against us not letting other people prop up? We want to
Mwindi on Mwindi crime.
Mwindi on Mwindi. It's there. You were telling me about a pilot as well.
Oh yes, I'll keep that. Because it's gotta be so obvious.
But going back to that point, it's not even just Mwindi on Mwindi, like pulling them down. Our own families do that shit.
Like siblings.
Bro,
for sure.
This land issues, this guy's dad's brother, they're fighting over property.
An uncle arrives out of nowhere. Yeah.
What is that a factor of? What's the...
Greed.
There's nothing else. It's pure greed.
Everywhere we go, we start to run the economy. It's greed.
Must be. But like I was saying, I had a very interesting week. First corporate event ever hosted.
Tell us about that.
Hosted one for my company. So... It was interesting because, the podcast format we chat shit, we talk anyhow we want, it's free flowing, it's whatever. So, of course, I took up the challenge because they say they watched Airmen. First of all, shout out to the company. Thank you for the consideration. It was fun. I'm going to leverage that for so many others. Of course, I had to be very conscious, and that's something I wanted to pick your brain about because on a panel, it was a fireside panel for the arrival of a new aircraft. And I was with the CEO, the head of strategy, head of maintenance, also some serious folk. And then I was suit and tie, and I had to keep reminding myself, this is not every other time. Eric, you got me like, so, hey, you get which mama? So I had to be very conscious around that. But I found it was a positive challenge and fairly not so difficult.
Right.
Just a lot of consciousness all through.
Listen, if you've got it in that space, you've got it. I'll go back to my own thing as I can MC from corporate to Miss Universe to Real Housewives, whatever it is.
Oh yes, you've done it.
Dude, that was a whole thing. But I don't enjoy it. I'm just good at it. Do you know what I mean? I don't really enjoy it. I shouldn't say that really, but it's not something I would choose to do if I didn't have to do it.
How does it pay? What does your rate card look like?
My rate card
rough
for
figures.
Corporate events is high. It's high.
Because I want
200 and 400,000 for a night. Yeah.
Per night? Even if I don't like them, I'd show up.
Yeah, that's why I'm still doing it.
Fill my day.
When I say 150 or 200 to 400,000, let me tell you, I've done events this year for 100, 150. You know, it sort of depends on. Sometimes you look at it as the profile. For example, I do TEDx. I'll be doing it for a second year now. The live TED talks that we do here, and it's called TEDx Kitisuru. I don't charge for those.
Okay.
Oh, yes, that's a for CV.
Yeah, because everyone is working as a volunteer on TED.
Yeah.
So, and you also think about the profile it's giving you.
Yeah.
Remember, the TEDx that's done here goes to TED in the US for them to approve.
Yeah.
But like when you have these particular MC environments, are there times where you're like, you just don't want to do it, man? You're not interested in anything. How do you
I watched Real Housewives, the panel with my wife. There's someone who gave this guy a hard time, man. Like,
Dr. C.
He was not keeping
I
quiet.
thought she was going to hit me, dude.
Yeah.
That was the season 1
Yeah.
reunion. Season 2 reunion was quite interesting. I'm going to try and say this in as short a time as possible.
We have all the time.
One of these women showed up with her husband, right? So it was Minay. I don't know if you remember Minay from
Put them on the
Housewives.
screen as he says.
Yeah,
them,
so Minay and Charles, her husband. And they claim to own the house they live in on the show.
Oh, yes.
Another housewife came and said...
With receipts.
Who was a realtor who was actually selling that same house. So now I expose that on the show. Like you have a director in your ear saying, we have new information for you, giving me the same brief I'm giving you about the house. Please, we've sent you a WhatsApp with a video of this woman selling the house. Please raise it and we'll play the video on the screen and tell them and ask them if they're lying about owning the house. So I go, now the husband and wife are sitting there. So now remember, I'm cabled. Like I've got an ear thing, I've got a microphone, I've got another cable running up my leg. You know, like you can't move from the chair. And I expose it. The husband gets up out of his chair. I can't move. And I'm like, this, and he's a big guy. I'm like, I'm fucking dead. That's it. This guy's going to kill
It's
me.
going to make for good TV, though.
He walked straight to me to show me the title deed on his phone. But when he was walking to me, he didn't have his hands on his phone. So I was like, he's just like, that's
just
it.
coming
This
to
is
you,
this
yeah.
is how I'm going to die.
Who was lying, though?
I don't think it ever got resolved, to be
Bro,
honest.
this is Kenya. At the end of the day, have you ever bought property and then you show up to sell it and then someone says, okay, wait, this is my property?
I want to come to that because there's something very specific that happened this week. But before we get there, I'm just curious around because you got to see a bit of behind the scenes of a reality show. Haven't you always also been curious to know how much is beknownst to them as they shoot? Like, what is the setup in a reality show?
I can say this, the Real Housewives, the authenticity of the arguments and the drama is real. And I mean, I think as production, you would, if we were doing a reality show and you saw that we had a little bit of tension, the producers will try and drive the tension a bit more.
Yeah.
So for instance, they will maybe set up a meeting with you and me. So Sajid gets, what the fuck are those guys doing?
Okay.
Once they see the tension building. So you can drive it, but they don't script anything. And that reunion, many people say it's all scripted. There is nothing scripted on that reunion.
That's interesting to hear.
That's like guys starting shit, eh?
Yeah, literally.
Choosy mix. Just putting over there.
Hey,
But Saj, the former lover of Vaj, who's now settled and all dolled up, married. How was your week, man?
I'm not married yet. Eh? Why is it coming to that?
How was your week, though? How's the workout coming along?
We were just talking about this work-wise. It's getting to the point where you just have to find balance because you're dealing with so many people across the globe. When Tokyo gets up for you, it's early in the morning. When the States gets up, it's for you late in the evening. And you have a team that reports 9 to 5. So finding the balance on top of that, getting to the gym. One thing I'll say is we have been accountable. So we did we actually did a show that launched yesterday. Where
From fat to fit, put it
From
on the
fat to
screen,
fit.
man.
I like the name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Long overdue.
It was the ChatGPT option 1.
So the other 9 options are shit, basically.
But working out, we did. We've been keeping each other accountable, sending screenshots. I think that the main thing is just consistency.
Can I tell you guys something unbelievable? And you might not be. So I weighed myself on Sunday. I can't say the specific weight for reasons known to you. But within 5 days, I've lost 6 kilos of water weight. I was just telling this guy last time, for me, plus minus 25 is not a big deal. Like that can happen in 2 months,
Yeah.
plus minus. So 2 months of just not being conscious and just going a bit ham, bro, I can balloon an extra 25. And 2 months of being super conscious and just watching how I eat,
Yeah.
I can easily lose 25. But the target is 50, man.
50.
But
Yeah.
let's
Do you remember the first time you met me, Fareed? I was a slim guy.
Yeah, I do remember.
Extremely slim,
Yeah.
actually.
When did you guys first meet?
That was 2020.
2020 or 2019?
2019,
Maybe 2020.
COVID lockdown-ish.
Yeah.
Oh,
We were partially locked down that time.
And how did you guys connect? Like it was over?
I just reached out to him. I can't remember who plugged me with Fareed, but I just reached out and set up a meeting. I told him I wanted to start a podcast. We met. He treated me to a coffee at Valley Arcade. Valley Arcade, right? Yeah, Valley Arcade. I remember. Then, of course, we shared a story about addiction. He told me I used to have cocaine in this wallet. Back in the day, of course.
I mean, no.
So maybe we should run by FAREED what we're planning on doing for this.
Go ahead,
so that
sure.
you can critique it. So ideally, what we want to do is we document the process.
Yeah.
We have like a shared Google sheet where people can track in, people can see, and we have metrics that we list every day, like how many steps we've done, how many times we've worked out, eventually adding calories. But then beyond that, beyond going to the podcast, sort of having like every other time with Eric vlog or Coffee Pump vlog, where we put ourselves in different fitness facets. So Hyrox, for example.
Yeah.
We do a day one, we see how shit we are. And actually, we should do one with him
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. It would have,
Right.
I mean,
Come.
great content.
Yeah.
We're going to be outshined by a 50-year-old.
You will.
So we do that, then we put ourselves in an MMA session. In fact, I spoke to the Momentum guys, the Momentum Gym. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
They're open for us to shoot over there. And then different stuff, different sports.
When you say MMA, you're doing like actual like
Yeah, sparring.
sparring. Oh, that's cool.
So actually, maybe not sparring on day one.
Day
but-
one for me, I have bitch-ass shins, man.
But what happens is...
So you do like Muay Thai and things like
yeah,
that.
so they'll put you through combos. They'll put
Entry
you through
level.
fitness, entry level. But then just to see how you fare on day one, right? So this is, you start with cardio, you'll do strength, and then you do combinations. And then to see how you can keep up. And
then we do the running challenge.
Yes, and then we want to run 5 kilometers and see how fast we can do it, however long that takes. And then 6 months down the line, we do something. And the main thing is just having consistency.
Right. And how long have you been? No, I think it's great. But how long have you been doing it?
It's been a week.
It's been a week.
You guys are joking like you've been at this for
I'm sure you're looking at our bodies and like, you guys are doing this for how long? Like, are you sure it's been 6 months?
We've been doing it theoretically.
Okay, fine. A week is good.
I want to share something that Sajid didn't want me to share. So I'm a cheap guy. I'm selective about my cheapness. So, of course, to track this thing, you need like a nice Apple Watch or a Fitbit. So I went and bought they might sponsor me in the future, so I'll edit it out in the future. I got an Oraimo.
When I saw that, I was like, what in the Kim Jong-un is this watch? It was some
I got
North
an Oraimo
Korean
smartwatch.
smartwatch.
Actually, I bought it downstairs at the gym, in the building where the gym is. I went there, I'm like, how much? 35. Like 350 later. So then I looked at it, and then later I realized the thing can't do much.
No.
So it doesn't do much.
Does your heart rate?
So this
It
guy...
tells the time once a day.
At 12.
So this guy, out of the kindness of his heart, or rather irritability of my cheapness, he got me a Fitbit.
Yeah,
man.
you have to. You have a Fitbit.
So I have an Apple Watch, but I don't like
You saw it
that
open
much.
on the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, they brought it with the girlfriend. So thank you, man. On air, like
They're great, by the way. Fitbits are awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why that's officially now, at least we can track. There's no...
Yeah, you can track your workouts, you can track everything that you're doing.
Even your sleep.
And your sleep,
On
exactly.
the app, it tells you like how much deep sleep you had, how much like
Correct,
sort of like light sleep,
It's nice.
how much you were moving. If you fart,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Six months from now, if we stick to this, bro, it's going to be...
Bro, we look like FAREED, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be mind-blowing.
I to be fair, I've worked out my whole life, even in the throes of my addiction.
But
I
you're
was in the
fitter
gym.
now. From the pictures I've seen of you of old...
Yeah, I always had like a little bit of weight on
Yeah.
my face, but the CrossFit and it has absolute. And I'll tell you what it is. It's the, and this is. I think you guys are going to see this now in your workouts because Muay Thai is also really difficult. It's the seemingly impossible, and then you make it possible.
Yes.
So walking into a CrossFit class the other day, and they're like, the workout today is, I don't know, it was something like 50 back squats or 20 back squats, 100 push-ups, and 3 rope climbs. And you
100
do that-
push-ups?
Yeah, or 50 push-ups, and then you do that 3 times. That's the workout. So you do a whole warm-up, and then you do like a strength bit. And then by that time, that's like most people's workout. Then you're actually going to do the workout. And they're short, right? They call it an AMRAP or an EMOM. An AMRAP is as many rounds as possible. The EMOM is every minute on the minute.
Damn.
And you finish it. And you're like, how have I finished that? You know, and I mean, classes are mixed, right? You've got people my age, younger, slightly older. I wouldn't say much older. And you're competing with people in their 20s and 30s. And then you realize what your body can do.
Do you feel like a rock star being fit at 50?
Totally.
Like compared to your counterparts?
Totally.
Because my dad is 67 and he's fit and he really like have you seen my friends? You know, compared to
I say
me.
that all the time to my partner. I'm like, go out for dinners with like her and like friends, and I'm just like, we're not the same.
Do you work out every day?
This week I was talking about this on the way here, but I've only worked out twice this week because of work. Generally 4 to 5 times.
And do you feel it keeps sort of those demons at bay?
100%. And also my mood. Like yesterday, I didn't go to the gym and my mood was shot to shit.
Yeah,
if I'd gone even for 30 minutes, it would have been a different day.
Yeah.
So I tried to do 6:30 a.m. That's the key. When I was on radio, I used to leave Capital early and get to the 10 o'clock CrossFit class.
50 push-ups. At my fittest, I could only do 3. And like
No, then you see the problem is your
Strength.
training was more cardio.
yeah. That time it was strictly cardio. I had not
I
done
mean,
it.
I'll do them in groups. I'll do 20, 20, and 10. Yeah.
Then another thing I've seen, of course, online is guys jumping on these platforms, and I'm like,
box.
yo, how is this guy jumping on this? That's
No,
crazy.
you build up, right? I think you start at a smaller
So
step
it's
and then you go
20, 24, and 30. That's the two. So depending on how you flip the box.
Yeah.
But
But
I started on 24. Before I hurt my back, I was getting up to 30. Now I'm on the middle one.
And you see, the good thing with the watch that you can track is you can actually track how strong your heart is. So, I mean, just within the last 2 weeks of working out, the first session I had with this Amer, the MMA guy, I was throwing up about 35 minutes in. And my heartbeat was like 160, like really going. And we burnt about maybe 440 calories. Yesterday, I sent you the screenshot. We touched 1,000 calories, no passing out, but still exhausted. So just within a span of 2 weeks, everything has sort of come back. And I was doing MMA before, so the software aspect of it, the combos and everything is there. Just the problem is the hardware is such a fat fuck right now. It's like a KFC bucket that's just struggling right now to move. And I mean, when I was doing it at 90, the kicks you can do it right now is close to 117, 118 kilos. It's a big difference, man. So even that 10 kilo difference.
So you were 90 at one point.
Bro, I was 75 at one point.
Jesus.
Yeah, we put some pictures up on the other
So
episode.
look like fucking Shah Rukh Khan, man.
And guys in the comments were like, those pictures are wild. Like they couldn't believe like us guys were slim.
Yeah.
It's a crazy concept. But we're coming off by the time this drops, we'll probably be past another crazy day because Sabasaba is coming. But we're coming off a crazy Mandamano day where undeniably people showed up. And for the most part, even I was saying, I don't know if guys are gonna show up. Do guys still have the momentum of last year? Has the temperatures cooled? Have these guys kind of scared the masses? And then we saw Thika Road, and then we saw Kiambu Road, and then we saw town.
This thing went citywide, dude.
I had to drive because the employer, I had to find a way to make. I tried going down Bunyala and down like Pascal 4, formerly Nakumat Mega. I had to take a U-turn and then go like around Bagathi down, then up Langata Road bypass because there was like tires and guys were
No
driving
excuse,
opposite.
you just have to find your way there.
As guys, you have to show up and they're like, you didn't go to the hotel. So usually you have to report to a hotel near the airport if you're flying in the evening. Just so that you cannot say.
Is it a good hotel?
It's pretty decent, but it's just so that you cannot say.
Kenya Continental.
No, it's a nice hotel.
Which hotel is it? Can you tell us?
Sometimes they put us at one is something by Hilton, and then there's the other.
Okay, that's
So
good.
that's nice.
It's
That's
decent.
not
No,
bad,
it's just
Clean, good food.
it's just the principle. Like, yo,
It's clever that they
the
do
country's burning, but you better come fly this
We
place.
still got to fly planes. Yeah.
And then weirdly, also passengers, bro. Passengers show up. You'll never, all through last year and this year, Mandamano, there's no flights at, man, it was 70 book nights, 40. Guys show up. So
Somehow they get to the airport.
Somehow. But it was an interesting day. I talked to FAREED off air. It's also something I wanted to touch on. How was your day that day in terms of workflow or workflow interruption? And how did you take what you saw?
I mean, well, so on my end with the data center aspect, things just continued as is. I mean, we had to keep the internet on. There's some players that throttle the internet. We don't need to say who.
What does throttled mean?
It means blocking access to certain sites, blocking access to certain mediums to communicate. Everything just on that front. You see, maybe to explain the internet, all of us have a mobile phone user, right? And the mobile phone user has their servers that interconnect with different caches and so on and so forth. So if all of us are in that telco's line, they can do something on the back end to make sure you don't get access to it. And that's why everyone was sort of rushing towards Twitter, because Twitter is accessible via different ISPs and the different caches. And so anyway, that's a whole separate segment. For us, it was people are just operating as usual, right? I think the post effect of it, and I had an episode with Madung, who's the journalist. You watched that episode?
Yeah.
Is we were a bit surprised at the government's reaction. In fact, there was... what's his name? The guy who said, if you come next to a police station, you'll be shot.
Murkomen.
Murkomen, yeah.
Primitive guy.
I mean,
man.
you see, the thing is...
Idiot.
Yeah. Primitive. It comes off so like 19 96.
Fucking thug.
Yeah, but that's the sentiment we're getting. Is the government is like, fuck you. We're not going to abide by anything. This is the way we're going to work. This is the way things are supposed to be. And the rest of us are trying to complain and say, what can we get in return? There has to be a conversation that comes to the table. But the government is like chucking the table off. Nothing is sort of happening. And that's my opinion. Is all this was done in vain. Nothing really moved. We are frustrated as a nation, but the guys at the top are like, fuck
This guy held a solo podcast in response to the Gen Z protests. You saw for like 3 hours of just ranting and saying what is not and what is, and kind of alluding to the fact like he'll determine how government is handed over. Like, hey, wait a minute, hey.
Yeah, another 23 years.
I have a question.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that it's great to see. You know, it's not even Gen Z anymore. So we can,
Gen Z, they say, is now it's a mindset. So you're Gen Z. I'm Gen Z.
It's
Fox is Gen Z, literally.
But it's great to see. Like there were so many people in the streets, and you know, I own a couple of small businesses that get heavily. One of them's at Village Market. So obviously,
Couple of small businesses.
Yeah.
One of which is at Village Market.
It's a salon with that's like nails and manicures and pedicures and massage, and now we do Botox and filler. So that market does not leave the house when there's protests.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
that.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Like their embassies and their fucking
You got a memo.
UN. Yeah. There could be disruptions today. You know, they like that word, disruption. So I feel it every time we have a protest, but I'm 100% behind it. I was kind of feeling shit that I wasn't out there on the last one. I feel like it was just a vibe. You know what I mean?
Did you see how, and we put the picture up right now, because how was my day? Because I was flying in the evening. I remember I was with wife at home because they didn't go to work. And initially it was quiet. We were watching like on the stream, you were seeing town. Then at some point they just moved to Thika Road and Kiambu Road.
Yeah.
You've seen that video.
Thika
right?
Road.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Was a sea. And let me tell you, if I think government were holding their breath, because if those guys breached that barricade that was being held
That's
at
it.
Thika Road, it was over. And
You know,
I think not only over for government, but also life as we know it. Because if those guys, how many guys would you estimate those guys were? 20K?
where coming from where?
From Thika Road.
Yeah.
Easily.
Easily.
I think everyone would have felt it in some shape or fashion, like now on their front door kind of thing. Because, bro,
Let me tell you, when you're sitting in Gigiri and you hear noise, you know shit's about to go down. You know what I mean? That's like this untouchable. I remember doing post-election violence, and this is going to sound really insensitive, but you know, we used to, because everything was shut. We used to go to Village Market and have a beer.
yeah, I remember going to Sherlock's with my girlfriend. That time I was in Form 3.
Yeah.
That time the country's burning, watch it on TV, man.
Yeah. When you hear that shit in Gigiri, like coming from Kiambu Road and Thika Road, you like shit's it's a different story altogether.
And you always have this idea that the American embassy is here, the UN is here, so probably they'll barricade.
That embassy, there was not one car parked inside that embassy.
Is
Those
it true
motherfuckers are at
that
home.
Village actually? So I've heard rumors that Village actually has access directly to the UN through some underground bunkers or something.
Don't know. No idea.
And I was dating actually a girl that did pyrotechnics at the time, and they were doing demonstration tests at the hotels and at Village, and they'd shut it down. How to respond to a situation and how to use the access parameters to get people from the UN.
The interesting thing I've heard about Village is that what's the hotel, not the tribe, the other one?
Trademark.
That took a while to. Apparently, periodically they have like people flying for like mass sex parties and stuff like that. That's
Where was our invite to that?
I'm not sure.
Where do you know anyone?
I'm not sure I can comment on that. I've got a very good working relationship. This is not. I want to say the opinions on this show do not reflect my opinions at all. I have no idea. But going back to protests, going back to government response, you know, the sort of hardline approach, because initially you remember that last year when he first came out and said these are thugs and terrorists or whatever, and then like the next morning he wakes up and he's like, let's dialogue, and you know, obviously, you know, sort of caught himself. This time it just seems like
It wasn't there.
But I have to say this, I think even if it doesn't happen, because I don't think it will happen, the conversation and the mindset of him having to step down, I think he is thinking about that on a daily basis, our president. Okay. Now, if I disappear after this podcast, just know that this is the reason why.
Get an air tag. I keep telling my friends who talk politics, just get an air tag.
Like rectally, oh?
Yeah.
yeah. One of those dog things that they clip on the ear. But truthfully, in my opinion, he should step down.
He doesn't have the courage.
No, he doesn't have the courage, but he also doesn't want to let go of the power.
He's building a church.
How the fuck is he in the UK meeting Prince William when his country is going to be in another issue in 2 days. So sorry, we are recording on a Friday. Monday is Saba Saba. I think we make that clear.
Yeah.
If you can release this on Monday, that would be awesome.
It'll be amazing.
Yeah,
Kazi kwenu.
But truthfully, you know, I mean, I don't understand. He's doing some fucking European tour. It's crazy. It's like every time we have a problem, he's on a fucking plane.
But also this time around, if one day had 48 hours, by day I mean like this expanse of daylight, I feel like it would have been different because this guy survived because of time.
No.
This specific day?
Let me tell you something. People don't give credit, and again, I'm complimenting our police, and I understand there's some fine line in what their actions have done.
Go ahead, Tom.
But in terms of just controlling the crowd and their capabilities, I'd say our guys are trained.
Are you talking about because you know you're an internet guy, you talk about like on the back end of internet, or you talk about physically?
Consider the internet, consider the physical force people used to stop, and just manage people. I think our guys are very well controlled.
Do you know about the police?
Yeah, I'm talking about the police. I think on the back end, I think they have capabilities to actually shut things down if it gets too serious.
But you see that Thika Road thing,
Like including witch doctors at State House, yeah?
was moving kilometer by kilometer. So it was a thing of time. Like if there was more, of course, nightfall changes anything.
What do you think? Do you think it's like a vampire effect where at night people are more active? I mean, I don't think it was time. I think it was seriously guys were just controlled in such a way and managed. And they did a very... I mean, you can't say they did a brilliant job, but what I'm saying is the crux of it is they stopped people getting to State House.
Well, apparently one of the street is, you talked about witch doctors, but one of the street is that they reached State House Road and guys said their feet got heavy. Now, you can go the esoteric way of saying like there was like spells cast, but you can also go the Israeli weapon kind of, Mossad kind of
You
weapon.
never know.
Like that.
Maybe that was not tear gas. Maybe that was gas with...
Because there were crowds there,
Yeah.
and at some point you could just see, hey, what's up? If you guys are near, why are you guys looking like...
Why not just breach?
Yeah, like what was that about? So it's a bit unclear. But then, bro, the guy looked worried after the fact.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. But
You'd be
also
worried, right?
Also, when you talk about the police, just go back to your point. I also think they're caught in what's right and wrong. You know, if you look
Correct.
at some of these police, they're
Common.
this age.
Yeah.
You know, 20-something, 30-something. They're young guys.
Yeah.
So they also, you know, okay, it's my job to protect State House or Parliament or whatever it is,
Yeah.
or CBD. But at the same time, they're looking in a mirror when they're seeing these.
In fact,
these people come through.
I spoke to an old friend of mine. He's about my age, so maybe not as young, but he's a lawyer, but he's in the forces. And he was saying it's gotten so bad, like they don't have basic workman tools. So like if you're working on something, you have to like buy your own ream of paper and say things that they never saw even in the previous dispensation. And you're saying how the police force is being run from how money is being disbursed to them. It's like they're a collective bouncer for government. So when things like protests come up, all of a sudden there's money. They were saying last year after June 25th, they were being served, like breakfast was brought to them in town on trucks from like the barracks. So like they're literally like a bodyguard, a big ass bodyguard for Gava. And money is short when things are normal, but money is there when we need you guys to kick into action.
Yeah, I think that's the fundamental way this country works, right?
But I mean, to add on to that point as well, you see, the thing is, there's no pride in poverty because these guys are in between meals, they're in between salaries. And when your next meal and your next salary is coming from you following orders, what do? Right? You go to the street where it means your rent is not being paid, your school fees for your kids are not being paid, you don't eat a meal. That's the situation, right? So again, there's a fine line on what they do. If you are in that position, and that's the only job you've known, and you know you have to go to work, otherwise you don't get paid, or you don't get access to the funds that will grant you at least 2-3 months worth of rent, what do?
What about the idea of being thrown under the bus for not complying even with orders around torturing someone because of the hierarchy that exists?
I mean, it's the black sheep syndrome, right?
Like, are you seeing how these abductions things have had me scratching my head because I can't really understand what's happening. You saw what happened recently with this gentleman who just appeared and they're saying that he had on his own volition kind of hidden because of what was that thing he posted? The program for 25th that culminated, of course, in that.
Oh yeah, with
the thing for the president.
Yeah.
And there's something weird around these abductions. Like, are they being abducted and then negotiating on the other side?
Well, I mean, you've seen that some of these sort of figureheads and, you know, the sort of faces of the previous protests have sort of been absorbed into being the government
Are you talking about Bonnie?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Bonnie?
I mean, okay.
People have crucified me for mine. So what?
Okay,
are
I'm going to say this, and this is really unpopular. You talk about, so Boniface came back from Tanzania. We're talking about Boniface Mwangi, right? With the lady from Uganda,
Yes.
right? And they had this
press conference
story about being sexually abused and sodomized, whatever the case may be. Now,
Speak your mind
Yeah,
every other
man.
time with Eric.
yeah, fair enough. I think I'm not sure if it was as severe as was played out. I think people can be paid to do a lot of things. They can be paid by people to say things, and I don't. Obviously, I wasn't there. I don't know. I just feel like there's something is not right with that story.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you get crucified for?
So I was saying it's to me it comes across as a win-win lose-lose. So I'm not saying Bonnie is not an activist, but I think over time he's become someone who's made money off being an activist, because when you rally behind a cause repeatedly and it's documented, there are institutions world over that will fund you, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. Why should I be poor if I'm actually rallying for a cause? However, it gets blurred when that becomes your means, because what are you not willing to do to get that money? Because it's like you don't want your taps closed. If that's your career path, you don't want your taps closed. So when it came to the Tanzania thing, I think two things were true. So they landed. In Kenya, typically, they can control the environment because they know if I go slap a cop, I'll be slapped, I'll be pushed down. They'll bundle me in a pickup. I'll go to Central. FAREED and Sajid will come. Viva, we'll take a picture, yada, yada. I'll be blooded out, but I can chalk it up to the game. It's just a few, So they kind of know the Kenyan way. But in Tanzania, they go there and they lose control of the outcome. So what happens is perhaps they're actually tortured, and maybe not to the degree, but they are tortured for sure. But then it still ends up being a win-win, lose-lose, because it's a win in that now your price has gone up, because on the global scale of activism, you were sodomized. So it's embarrassing, yes. So that's the loss. Like, shit, your kids know you're sodomized. I mean, the world knows you're sodomized. But then now your price is higher. So it's all about what are you willing and not willing to do.
So we have the same thought.
Yeah.
I mean, you just articulated it way better than I did.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that also, I know Bonnie personally, and we interacted quite a bit during the last regime. And coming into this one, and he was on radio a few times with me. And he's an awesome guy. Don't get me wrong, but I wasn't comfortable with that story.
Yeah, it was.
And not uncomfortable because of the sodomy and the sexual abuse. That doesn't make me uncomfortable. There was something when I watched the two of them, it was almost like no, but and also the script was almost identical.
Yeah. And then also
where there are too many details matching, right? Where,
it was
when you're
just like-
lying, you sort of put details to convince people.
my uncle used to say when I'd be trying to get money for booze, like the longer the lie, the longer the story, the bigger the lie.
But also, if Sajid and I are in that situation and we come out, we go to different police stations, God forbid. And after this episode, you never know.
If it's Buckland's police station, we'll be okay.
Or they might like us a bit too much, bro. But if we go to a police station or different police stations, and then something happens similar to this story, and we come out, our stories are not going to be the same.
Not that identical.
No.
Yeah.
What happens to me, whether it is the same type of thing, torture in some way or the other, the stories are not going to be identical, and that's what bothered me.
And perhaps I'm a weak man, but just for a fact, I know myself. I don't consider myself a weak man. I'm just an average Joe. If I go through an experience like that, 2 weeks later, you're not going to see me. I'm just going to be reclusive for a while.
And think about if you want to come out or not with that
With
story.
that story in particular.
Not coming out with the story, and then just the experience. Like, I'm not just ready to come out. Like, now if you see Bonnie, and like I'm saying, maybe he's a lot stronger of a dude than us. He seems like he's normal. He's back to normal. He's talking. Bro, this guy's just, according to your story, that happened to you. So for me, that's also
is Bonnie, he's not media shy, right? He always,
he's selective.
He's selective.
He's selective. So I've noticed he's big on the mainstream media thing.
Yeah.
We've been trying to get him to do podcasts for a while, but he's always...
He's not coming after this episode.
But this format, for anyone who has something to hide behind, it's too real for them. They want a very controlled environment. See, Eric Latif will ask you generic questions. Jeff will ask you generic questions. So Tanzania,
Yeah.
hey, torture.
I mean, so yeah.
No one will ask you like yo.
And then Jeff will
the way
look at you like this.
You see, the way FAREED has just. We would ask him exactly our thoughts, and then of course, if he's lying, it'll come out on camera, and people will be able to see for themselves.
And
So-
maybe there's your answer, because a lot of the people you and I have reached out to, the guys that don't live up to the tall tales are usually the ones that never come on.
yes.
But the guys who are real, even from the political front, like FAREED, for example, he changed my opinion because he put his heart out there, the way you spoke, and compliments to you. If you have the gift of the gab, maybe you can bullshit yourself out. But then at this length, with the way we are talking, there are too many details you'll have to put in order to continue saying that lie. So maybe therein is your answer.
But you worked with the previous regime, and I always say this because they were not saints per se, but there's something about likability. So Uhuru had this thing about him where his persona was, of course, larger than life, higher than life, for lack of a better way to put it.
And
But-
larger than life towards the end, bro. You know what I mean?
But he comes off. Put all the governance aside. Let's just talk about first encounters. If you're meeting the guy, he comes off as a very personal guy.
Dude, the guy will call you Dugu.
Yeah, and then
Have you met him?
Yeah.
So that permeates through the psyche of the people. It doesn't matter. You could have stolen 6 trillion, but if you're a guy, hey, and then I can high five the Watu's Raya picture
You
photo.
know, he'll ask you for a cigarette, dude. Like he's a guy, just a dude.
He's a dude.
Yeah.
Now the difference with this guy is, apart from all the misgivings that people have around his governance, he just doesn't. His likability is zero. He doesn't come off like he's even trying to endear himself to the people now.
He's a hardliner, bro.
I watched today, he was telling the people basically, and I'm paraphrasing, I wish I could do that Key and Peele, where the Obama interpreter, where he was telling, kanisa, unaletea kwa sababu najenga kanisa. He's like, I'm going to build it. Fuck you guys. That's basically what he said.
Yeah.
It's all a speech.
Yeah.
Why would you build a church somewhere where you're planning to live?
That should tell you everything, right?
FAREED went quiet. That should be my cue.
No, you're right. No. I came in and I actually said we should fucking talk about the 8,000 capacity church that as a Muslim man, as two Muslim men, I think it's a little bit shitty.
You dropped Scientology.
Yeah, last week.
Where's the mosque?
Yeah, it's very...
What if Joe Hogan becomes the next president?
Yeah, exactly. Multi-faith room, right?
That's what they
we
should
want.
call it. I don't care about a church.
But also, even as a Christian, what are you doing building a church in State House?
And for who?
And which 8,000 people? And where is that allowed in the anything? Like, I thought you can renovate. Like, I don't like how the
You know, the thing is,
the
like,
W-
I want a
it's
new
like-
fridge.
A bidet.
It's like the renovation.
You guys
plan,
didn't have
right?
a bidet?
Like, we expand the room, we expand the living room, we expand the church, and then it just keeps going on and on.
That's a lifetime home.
According to the Gospel of Macarius, people who will watch this will know who that is. He's a fellow podcaster. He says apparently the rooftop of State House is now flat just to accommodate snipers. How true is that?
You know, I'd love to see the data center at State House. I've heard some crazy rumors, like some Fort Knox ass, multiple fiber, dual redundant path with just.
Probably a guy with a guest book.
Do you know?
Analog as fuck.
Do you know what this guy told me? And of course, we used to hear rumors around previous governors having like literally data centers at their cribs to watch the money of all their corrupt interests. So money comes into county government. I decide how much is going to be actually remitted. And because he's in that field, the same way I would know like, this company got this aircraft. He's like, he knows guys who built some of these data centers.
The amount of, what I'll say is this current political structure, the investment on the back end on the soft systems is insane. Like, I've never seen anyone spend that much money. And we're talking KCB level, equity bank level, infrastructure investment.
Are they listening to everything we do and say?
I'll just say, don't use your telco, use WhatsApp. Or use
Didn't you guys find that day, of course, internet was slow?
Yeah.
Certainly there was something that was being done with the internet. But that's also because we have actual lives. I was telling some of my colleagues, it's easy to get caught up in the Sarafina-ness of a day like that or a day like Saba. But let's say the guy was actually toppled. What does Kenya look like for the norm, for anyone at whatever level?
Who the fuck is our VP? I don't even know. No, I'm just joking. I'm Team Riggy G. That's my new
How much is he giving you?
zero.
Because
Zero. I love the guy. I loved him from day one. I loved he was just a dude.
No, but he's not.
No, I know people don't like him.
No, not about like him, but he's just like I'm off that team, and they cosanad. So there's two schools of thought. People say that, of course, they cosanad about deals and cash and everything, but there's also a section of people who say it's actually principle, and here's how. So principle around, okay, in the Kenyan way of governance, we enter power, we use this power to accrue wealth, but some kind of development, maze.
Yeah.
And also, don't pilfer from things that are already owned by people. Like, I cannot come for your business because I'm in power and say, now it's mine. I cannot tax you as if I'm KRA from your business. So, philosophically, that's where apparently they're saying that this has diverted from the old way. The old way was more...
Mafia.
Yeah, now it's becoming mafia. Like, you have a business, like instructing KRA to tell you who owns what and how, like, and then approaching them for a stake. Like, that's a whole new level. And remember, Rigiji is backed by, they say, Mount Kenya Mafia. These are some of the biggest owners of some of this business. They're like, yo, we don't roll like that.
No, but can I ask a question? And truthfully, you guys can answer this. Even our production team can answer this.
Sure.
If not His Excellency President Ruto, then who?
That's a question we even asked, yeah. Then who?
Okiam Tata.
Okay.
If Okiam Tata could be, and I wish you guys, I was telling John Alanamu the same, you guys were a bit more experienced. I wish you guys could cocoon somewhere with a budget and you're told, okay, FAREED, John, and some team, you guys write a script for this guy in terms of messaging so that you can rally the people.
I'll speak to John. We could probably make that happen.
Because he's struggling with the mess there.
So that's your pick?
Yeah, I would pick him for sure.
Bro, I've never voted, so at this point, I'm just waiting to see what you guys choose and then live with the consequences.
What about you?
You know, this is the reason I asked this question is because I don't fucking know.
What about you guys?
So, like, and this is the generation that is going to go out and vote in 2027, by the way.
Are you guys going to vote, though?
No.
He nodded a bit hesitantly.
No, they're going to vote. You guys, I'll tell you why, and correct me if I'm wrong. They're going to vote because they want to prove that their numbers matter and they want this guy out of office. That's why you're going to vote, right?
Would you vote for Rigiji?
So are you guys going to vote for anyone that's not Ruto?
Not anyone that's not Ruto. Best choice at the time, sahi inakaa kwa Okia Mtata.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
So the thing Okia brings to the table, he has a track record. This guy behind the scenes quietly, he's a serial litigator. So for the last 20 years, he has blocked so many government things from proceeding through the courts single-handedly. That's unconstitutional, goes to court and wins. He's been a thorn in the side. He's been beaten. He's been tortured. Now he's a senator. So he's made a rise also in the political.
And he's also really eloquent, by the way.
Yeah, and he has technical savvy. He knows the constitution. He knows the know-how, and he knows the do's and don'ts. So they want to front a Maraga, Okia, what do you call it, ticket. But the obvious thing is they don't have the kind of capital needed to run a campaign in Kenya.
What about the watermelon?
And they don't.
This guy just appears. Every time shit goes bad with the government, Mr. Watermelon comes out in his leather jacket and his fucking Billy D. Williams mustache. You know what I mean?
Complete non-starter. If you guys came to my house and my house was completely upside down, wouldn't you be like, I don't know if I want to really do something with this guy.
But it's interesting because Kalonzo has always been in and around the top position, right? Vice president twice, I think. Was it twice? Anyway, whatever. Or he's been like a high up in government structure, and never. So he will never be the guy.
Non-performer.
But Mudavadi, in my opinion, is exactly the fucking same. And he fucked himself. I'm sorry, I'm swearing now. He fucked himself because he had the best chance. He's a calm guy. He's of, and I hate to use this term, but I'm going to use it. He's of a tribe that is not it's not the two big tribes that are going to go, yes, he's a Luya. And so therefore, a lot of you guys would have said, you know what, fuck it, it's a Luya, we'll vote for him. I'm sorry, am I stepping
How
over
did you know? How did you know he's a Luya? That's
no, I didn't know he's a Luya. I'm saying
it's the head shape. I'm joking. I love you, man.
No, they're always like so black they're almost blue. No, don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is, I didn't know you were a Luya. What I'm saying is, it would be a safe bet because it's not him or Raila. It's not Ruto or Raila. You know what I mean?
Bruh.
Politicians, they go and fuck themselves for cheap money now.
So you think?
But do you think they do it because it's just part of the system? Either if you want to go along, you need to get along.
So
yeah,
that's
but if you and waiting, like someone like Mudavadi, if sorry to cut you off, if he had said in 2020 we had 2025 was the election, no 2024 last year was the election.
2022.
2022, yeah.
shit, are we only 2 years away from...
Yeah.
Yeah,
This guy's been in power for 3 years.
27,
and done
27,
fuck
right?
all. No. So if he... Because he knew in 2022, he's going to have to wait until 2032 to get a run at the presidency, right? You know that. I mean, it's Africa. The incumbent doesn't lose, right? I mean, doesn't lose. So Mudavadi's not a young man either. So I understand, right? Let me get in now because then I can be part of the government. So, but now that he's part of the government, is he not tainted
So what I
for
say,
guys like, for the Gen Zs?
what I'd say about a guy like Mudavadi, and I figured it out around, was it 2017? So he's a guy he's in the business of politics. So
Kalonzo's the same.
He kind of already knows, like, I'm not going to win. So clearly, for a guy to align with the current president, that was a check. And I think in this last run up to the 2022 election, that check was colossal because he was a free agent, and he was a free agent who was the kingpin of a very big tribe in terms of numbers. So he was bought. Remember, it was a shocker, like, what? This guy has gone the UDA way? It was very weird.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how much money he was given. Right now, he's trying to detach himself. You don't see him as much. He's trying to, like, kind of step away from aligning with this regime. But what Okia and Maraga bring, let's start there. Let's start with rule of law. This guy annulled an election. He said, fuck you guys. The process was wrong. We'll do it again. He went against Uhuru Ruto, dangerous guys, right? Okia Mtata has proved himself in terms of track record. These are Lee Kuan Yew-esque kind of people.
Okay.
They can turn the country around for real. But in Kenya, we know to win an election, you have to have a wave. Jubilee had a wave. Jubilee came, that red, yellow, we were swept. It doesn't matter what class, what level, what
Red
tier of society
ties,
you are.
Obama rolled up sleeves.
They spent too much money on the Pamoja Kama Jubilee, culminating in them surrounding what was the opposite side called at the time? NASA. The NASA were having a rally at one of these stadiums, and one of the branches was my uncle. It's like, you know what, let's take choppers, branded, and just surround the rally. Just to come and shit on your rally, man. So, bro, they spent so much money. It was a wave. Now, that wave has an effect on the psyche. People fell in line, and even learned people fell in line. Like, Jubilee just all of a sudden became the default. Like, let's vote for them. When Kinaraila was supposed to take it easily because it was a transitional time. Now, for these guys, and that's why I'll go back to the script writing thing, they need a team to come up with the messaging that can permeate at all levels of society, knowing well that they might not have the funds to create a wave like those guys did. So this is social media. Social. They have to leverage on this social media thing.
But
big time.
we're already late. It's 2 years away. And honestly, do you think, even if the vote count doesn't go in the favor of the current president and government, do you think they're stepping down? No.
But by fair,
Actually, that's a very
think
good
about
point.
it this way: if Kina Fox and Sajid and us are going to lining up to vote, and people are lining up in the thousands to vote, while chanting "Someone must go," and then on the flip side, you come and say you won, bro. If that's the surest,
This fucking country will burn.
that's the surest way.
Is that the plan of your generation? That if this guy rigs into power, that this country won't sleep?
I think so. I think that's inevitable.
But it's crazy because they've got 2 years to plan for that shit.
I mean, so maybe on the flip side, what do you think Ruto can do to basically change his image?
To endeavor himself,
Let's say now
money in our pockets, and not money literally
like
like
sponsorship on EOTWE.
like every time with Eric we are sponsored by UDA. No.
All of a sudden we're wearing yellow. Just looking like a bunch of assholes. You know?
And let's approach it this way, right? Let's say, all right, they come and they want to change their image. What are the things you think they should do to get that? And I'm assuming he knows he's not in favor of the mass majority.
Of course he knows.
So, and he wants to stay.
And he's got to make that happen before 2027.
What does he start doing?
If you could find a way, and it's almost impossible. When I say money in your pocket, I mean literally, like somehow our money just means more. I don't know what craftsmanship they can do behind the economy.
This was an interesting Uber the other day, and again we were discussing it. Uber drivers are generally a good
podcast.
pH scale to understand how the political landscape is.
Somehow they're the experts.
Yeah, they're the experts
Yeah.
because they drive around with so many people, so they're the pH meter, right? This guy, one driver in particular, said, "Well, what people don't understand is Ruto is taking us through a very tough time, so then we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And in order to make those tough decisions, in order to curb the spending, in order to do things that control the price of the dollar, food pricing. He has to make tough decisions. So that was the first time I actually heard someone saying that. I'm not sure if you guys agree with that, though.
Yeah, if you can switch it around, because right now there are some metrics he has improved. The proverbial price of unga, price of sugar, for real, they've actually gone down.
So I was asked this: what's the price of bread?
85 bob.
Sure. I buy my bread at our cafe, mate.
That's 185 bob.
I'm one of the few people that hasn't been affected by this economy. I'm not going to fucking lie.
I think it's 65 bob, right? 65 bob, yeah.
I'll talk about the longer one, bro.
Yakuni 8 grain whole wheat, that one. Okay.
Super loaf.
But you see, for us, again, it's that aspect where we were discussing Weetabix protein is the one that's gone up. The basic commodities, most people are very happy because they're quite stable. And the dollar is, again, stable for us. So in my industry, for example, I deal exclusively in dollars. So if I'm charging a customer $1,000, remember when it was 160?
Yeah.
And he's paying me
It almost
Kenyan
got to
shillings.
200 at one point.
Exactly. Yeah. And now it's sort of been stabilized and hovering around
Yeah,
that
130,
point.
135. Yeah.
So for business, it's made it easier because my customers are able to pay me as an American entity that much. Otherwise, I'm asking them for a lot more. But again, from your opinion, and this is me as a person who's not really been interested in politics, the reason I've been stepping in is because he's been telling me, dude, you're a Kenyan, you're a podcast, get involved.
Not get involved, just have some know-how.
Yeah, I have a voice. Yeah.
What would you guys say Ruto needs to do in order to change things around for you?
So first of all, I was absolutely lying when I said I haven't been affected by this economy, because I have.
Yeah.
Money is not the same as it was
Correct.
3 years ago, 5 years ago. We all will agree that during Kibaki's time, that's where I made most of my money anyway.
Yeah.
I think that, it's an interesting point you make, or the Uber driver made, about maybe we just have to go, we've got to stomach it now. It's almost what Trump's doing in the US, right?
Yeah.
They're going to, this big, beautiful bill that he just passed, right? It's the same kind of mindset that it's going to be better later. What would he have to do to endear himself to the vast majority of Kenyans? I think he's got to fix this economy, and it's got to be quick. And I think, like Eric, I have no idea how that works. I don't know how you bring inflation down, whatever the case may be. But I will say one thing. That fixing of the economy, just to give you a little bit of an idea of how bad it is, there were people that I used to pay, my old production house, which was called Nusu Nusu Productions, which did a lot of DSTV and Supersport work. I had editors on my payroll that we used to pay between 150 and 250,000 shillings a month. This is going back to like 2012. That was a great salary. But we were being paid by South Africans, and we were making good money. I have those people calling me now asking to borrow 200 shillings.
Jesus Christ.
You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Yeah, and my phone has lit up 3-4 times. It's people asking for money. Right? People that were gainfully employed, whose kids were going to good schools, who had a car or lived in a nice, decent apartment, who don't have a cent to their name. This is the problem. There are no fucking jobs. Yeah. That is the problem. And this is going to... All the animosity and all the angst and all the aggression from that generation, I can boil it down to one thing. And you can ask our guys here, we can ask our audience, the Gen Zs and the younger generation listening. What is the point of getting an education, which is so important to your parents as Asians, to your parents as indigenous Kenyans? We know how important education is, right?
Yes.
What is the point of saying, I'm going to send you away to, even the people with money, I'm going to send you away to Australia or South Africa or the UK or India, wherever, to go to school and come back? What is the point of coming back if there's no fucking
There's
work?
nothing to come back to, yeah.
He's got to sort out the job market. And this whole thing about, if you're a digital nomad, you can come here for $1,500 or whatever the fuck that visa is and work on our internet and use our internet for free. How long is that going to last when they're choking the internet during protests? But also, those jobs should be going to Kenyans.
Absolutely.
Not fucking Europeans coming in here and sitting on the Indian Ocean doing their work. It's ridiculous.
Voting as the best diplomatic country.
Maybe actually just to add to Fareed's point. Again, when I started working in the industry 2016, government would usually say, the public sector would usually say, we need these and these IT innovation centers, or we need to go in this direction. And the private sector would then get together and fulfill that. And there was a lot of investment coming in, especially from out west. We're typically considered the Silicon Savannah. A lot of tech startups to boost not only the private but the public sector image. And so there was that harmonization where if a tender goes out, yes, we will cooler, but the project needs to get done. What's happened now is public sector will release an RFP or an RFI for data centers, for so on and so forth. Private sector, that's owned by public sector officials is the one that gets the business. And so the business just stays within that same circle. And so what's happened is the requests that come to us as a private sector have all dried up. A good friend of mine who I think you should have on the podcast, FAREED, from Pure Infrastructure, he'll attest to this, is that in the cloud market, you'd get a lot of requests because businesses would go online. From a data center perspective, a lot of people would reach out to us because they're creating businesses that want to sit in data centers. They would reach out to us. We used to get 30 to 50 requests a month. I barely get one request a week now. Same on his end.
That's just the business environment.
And because these pockets of business and these opportunities are going to select individuals in the private sector that have basically puppets being managed by the public sector figures at the top end.
So it's proxies for basic guys in government.
Exactly, and that's what's happening with everything,
it is.
with the road construction, with manufacturing. I mean, how impossible has it become to have manufacturing plants over here? Think about fucking Cadbury and fudge. Remember Mint Choc? They took that shit to Egypt.
There's the famous Dangote trying to come here, and guys were asking for such crazy bribes, and apparently our economy stood to benefit astronomically, but we lost. He pulled out. He's like, you guys are too greedy. But that's one side of messaging, and I like what you guys have touched on. But on a basic level, I don't know if you saw recently, I saw sound bites of an interview Jeff had of some Gen Z or a panel on JKL, and the anger has gotten so much amongst the Gen Z, like a 22, 23-year-old. The guy was not able to articulate why he's angry, but he was basically, and we'll put that clip in, he's like,
the whole point, Mazejo, is like the whole country just wants one person to go. Who's the crazy person? Si wase wote tunataka ule mswa kamera ishie. Juu maybe anachoma, maybe amefanyiwa, lakini sisi si machizi, like go just talk tu manzo ndio hata Mombasa utulie tu na ido huko nayo. Tuache jo tushifiti juu hatuna majob, wasa ni chini na $1 peke yake, hatuna job. Kwa sababu naumia.
Aende tu, wataende Mombasa sijui, like,
you know what that is?
Nataka wachore saba, like, and he's like, I'm living on less than $1. You know, it's like,
correct.
It's
money, bro. Have you
and it's not even about. You see, you guys are learned and you're able to articulate the intricacies of why. But at a level of desperation and youth where you don't have, it's just it's this guy.
But hats off to Jeff for having this panel and this particular guest who, usually you vet your guests as how well they speak because it's an audio and visual medium. To have someone to understand that the frustration is so bad you can't even explain it.
Yeah,
correct. I mean, that's, and you see it, it's crazy, like what we're seeing right now. And this trip to Europe, there's clearly an agenda of, no, we're fine as a country, don't worry. Yeah. We're good, keep the money coming in.
Kenya's the best.
Yeah. But, the internet doesn't fucking lie, unfortunately. And things don't disappear, receipts remain on the internet forever. It's one protest, and there's probably 30 businesses that were thinking about coming to Kenya saying, fuck that.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Absolutely. I mean, it boils down to not having enough money as an individual. Have you guys ever been broke? I'm sure we all have.
Alcoholic. Have I ever been broke?
You're not a drug addict unless you sold your TV.
I've sold curtains, bro. I've been broker longer than I've had any means. Bro.
Correct. And now, the person you are when you have no money versus the person you are when you have money, two different people.
Oh my God, I had this discussion last night at dinner with an uncle.
In terms of what you're willing to do or not do.
I mean, I'll tell you.
No, even your mindset, even the way you interact with people, it changes.
It changes,
yeah,
bro.
That's true.
I work on commissions. So there's months where I'm like, fucking, fuck you guys, fuck this country. And there are months where I'm like, Eric, yo, let's go for dinner. Let's do this. Yeah. So imagine that now. I mean, I'm blessed enough to be in a position where I have access to such opportunities. But now the common jamas who are stuck, again, like the guys who used to get paid 150,000, 200,000 bob in 2012 are now asking for 200,000 shillings. Imagine the frustration that guys have when you're going from a lifestyle where you can sustain yourself to something now where you're begging. You as a man, that changes who you are. That pisses you off, right? Because
and then throw in access, like now on the man side of things. Us guys at our brokest, even at like 18, 19, you could still tune a girl, have a girlfriend, kind of. Now it's because of the socioeconomic dynamics where the FAREEDs of this world have taken all the Gen Z ladies. They're guys, there's a whole crop of youth who don't have access to chicks because they are broke.
Then the frustration becomes more.
It's even worse.
Exactly. And what does social media do? The second you log in, there's a guy with a new car. There's a guy with a new babe. There's a guy Onyango Tate, or all these.
Yeah,
these
sitting in a private jet has not left the runway.
exactly.
Yes.
All this easy money, it all boils down to, why does this guy have the ability to do that? So it leads to frustration, which eventually leads to, in some aspects, theft and crime and so on and so forth, because we're stuck in a place where we don't know what to do. We have an education, we have multiple degrees, but I can't get a fucking job. I can't get a date because a woman needs money. So you get what's
frustration,
happening. The
yeah.
frustration is so...
I want to add to that as well.
Yeah.
The conversation I was having with my uncle was exactly that. So we were talking, and this is really interesting. So the biblical explanation of money is feast and famine in 7-year tranches, right? So 7 years of feast, 7 years of famine. And I would say, even though it's not famine on the level of the guy on Jeff's show, my last 7 years has been the lower point. And again, we're again in a situation
comparatively,
where
of course,
we're still going to have a place to live. We're still going to have food in the fridge, etc. But having said that, also money changed. I work a lot in the mental health space. I've done a lot of work on myself. And as I prepare for what looks like a very good next few years, I have to remind myself two things. One, not to be the same asshole I was when I was working with Supersport and our company was turning over 300 million a year in Kibaki's time, and we were in our 30s. We bought apartments and cars and all kinds of shit, and then we lost it all.
How old were you when you bought your first apartment? How old?
This is quite recent for me, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is I'm not young. I bought one in the UK, but then that was a scam.
So savings was not a thing at that time.
But what I'm trying to say, Fareed, is like
300 million in your 30s?
At our age, we're at 33, 34. I hardly know any of my friends who've actually got the money to buy an apartment.
Yeah, and your parents bought theirs in their 20s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my dad and your dad, basically the generation before us, the financial bracket that they had was a lot larger than what we have, right?
You get a first officer in what I am in 1982. These guys are buying plots in Karen.
Bro.
Like same pay scale, just what the money could do then.
Yeah, but that's the inflation side.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is that as you prepare for what will be, hopefully very lucrative futures financially, is there's two things, and I always say this: remain as humble as you were when you were broke, please. Like I have learned the worst part side of it, but also remember the people that were there for you at your lowest.
Yeah, that's
right.
good.
Because when I left radio, let me tell you, man, when I was in the heyday of radio, there's not a person that wouldn't pick up my call, and I can still make calls to people I need to and find them in my own way, but I also know the people that because I'm not FAREED from the radio anymore. I know the people that have just walked away.
Straight up.
Yeah, and you know what? It's good. It's a good culling.
Filter out that
because
shit,
they'll be back. They'll be back. If we start doing a podcast, and we're talking outside, a weekly podcast where we're just vibing like this and it becomes a global hit.
FAREED!
Yeah.
Someone, man.
And now I can say fuck you as well. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And that's the key to life, really, truly. You need a close group of friends that will be there for you. And I always say the woman who stays with you at your lowest is the woman you keep in your life.
Shout out my wife, man. And I remember I want to switch gears. I want to take a flight now to the Middle East and America. I think we've touched on Kenya pretty well. Hopefully, and guys, please, if I'm abducted, you guys better show up, or vice versa.
Maybe before we get into that, because Fareed obviously has a lot more life experience. If you were to get money right now, right, what are these sort of investments you'd look at?
Well, one thing I do consistently now is I've got a college fund set up for my two sons.
Okay.
So money goes into that every month.
Right.
So that's one. So that, because I don't want to be sitting here in, he's 12, so 6 years from now, so 20,
worrying about
31, and my son gets into a college and we can't afford it, right? I mean, his mom has a great job in Switzerland, so it's really it's fine. The other thing I would invest in now, I would invest in property overseas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not here, right?
Yeah.
Which markets would you look
Dubai.
at?
Middle East, Dubai, Qatar would be a great place.
Yeah.
These places are not going anywhere anytime soon. And if you look at the value of what you get, it's still quite good.
Yeah.
The Kenyan property market is a weird one. Everything's so fucking expensive.
I mean,
Overhyped,
no, because if you look at
overpriced.
what are the bank interest rate right now? 10, 11, 12%?
Up to 13, I think.
yeah.
And that's the return you get from a property.
Yeah.
And the property is valued in Kenya shilling. So what happens is, as our currency becomes weaker, your property actually is worth less and less and less. I think one of the tips that I got from a very good finance manager is put all your money in dollars. Because what's going to happen is, especially when we get...
By end of year, you said.
I'm seeing 160, 170. I'm seeing pound go past 200. And again, that means your shilling, your 1,000 bob is worth less and less and less.
Yeah.
So I just converted everything.
Good idea.
I mean, that's one thing that goes because it'll hedge against the inconsistencies in inflation and interest rates. So that's one thing that I'd recommend everyone
good
to
idea.
do. What about Bitcoin crypto?
I feel like that. I just feel like that bubble is burst.
Well, here's the weird thing. So
Sorry, before you say that, I always feel like if I think I'm stuck in between two generations. So I feel like I keep my mentality around like crypto is when I have some extra money, then I'll consider going that route.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a wallet with cryptocurrency in it, and I
Yeah.
just leave it there.
yeah,
That's what I've
just
done.
buy and hold. You know, the thing that changed my perspective on it was there was these meme coins that come out, right? And just through following guys on Twitter, and I gave this story, I'm not sure if it was on your podcast or if it was on Coffee Pump. This was around December. And the problem was in order to buy that coin, I needed to open a wallet that's registered in UK. So I was messaging my sister. I'm like, can you just put $100 in this coin? She's like, dude, I'm giving birth in the next hour. Do you mind? I'm like,
Yeah, but you got an hour.
oh, yeah, I was like, well, no pressure. If I had got that $100 put in, I would have come out with $400,000.
No way.
Yes. So that's meme coin. Now, you see, the thing is, with currency, what happens is...
Get 400K, you have to break me off like a 30.
Bro, if
For
I
the
get
kids in
400K,
Beirut, bro.
I'm building 3 studios for us with a stripper deck on the right. No, sorry. But imagine...
Sounds interesting.
Currency, the problem with it is they can print as much as they want.
Yeah, which is what fucks inflation.
Which would exactly. Now, with crypto, I think
It's finite, huh?
it's the fuck you to the system. And yes, there are a lot of things like rug pulls where they'll pump it up, but then if you get out on the right time,
Like Haktua coin.
now for example,
Remember Haktua?
now you see the thing is celeb coins never go after that. There's literally, if you go on Phantom Wallet, you can snipe certain coins where you can put $100 and forget 10x, 100x it. Right? And then what happens is with Bitcoin, because there's a finite amount, and when a lot of people put more into it, there's still 21 million coins. So the value increases. So for me, I think crypto is the way to get rid of poverty, but then there's a risk associated to it.
But high risk, high reward, man.
But that's life, right?
Yeah, but then high risk,
But
high risk how?
I will say this though, before we move about what you touched on around being broke and staying the same that you are. Because of my story with addiction, despite having a very decent, or rather what would be called a good upbringing, ended up in the very lower level society financially. And I had to operate with this English and, poor Swahili. But I managed to survive, but it gave me a whole perspective on things. Like, one, I know I can survive it, which is like a superpower. Like, I know I can go that broke and I'll be okay. Like, I'll be able to fend for my basics and...
You've given me stories, so I don't know. Can we talk about those stories?
Like which one? There's so many.
The one where you were sleeping at the petrol station.
I've told that several, yeah. That was just a night where I was on a bender and I was tired, I was homeless. So I was so tired and malnutrition. It reached a point now, like my muscles were tired. So I walked from OST, reached a gas station at Lemuru Road, went to the place where you can see like the car from down there. Just went there, sat there and passed out till morning. Woke up with my teeth chattering because of the cold.
You know, on the way supermarket, the petrol station
Yeah.
opposite? And he walked from where Gypsies
car.
used to be.
Yeah, that mobile.
He basically walked from there all the way.
Wait, you slept where they do the oil change?
Not down there, just like
On the surface.
right next there.
I slept in my car for 2 weeks in college,
Yeah.
to be fair.
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite the same.
Yeah, but now for me, I know what that broke is. I've once had, I think I had like 350 bob, and I needed to tour lock. Tour lock is like you need to drink. Yeah, like it's the morning after, you're feeling, you're shaking, but I'm not eating for like 3-4 days. So I'm like, I have to put something in my stomach, but I have to drink. So I bought they're called ngumus. Ngumu is like a mandazi of sorts. It's infamous in like kiosks. You know what a ngumu is?
Yeah.
I'm shocked. So I got a ngumu.
You've spent time with me. The fact that you're shocked about my African attributes.
So I got a ngumu and 2 quarters, and then I drank the quarters, washed the ngumu down with the quarters of liquor.
So did you actually have the shakes?
Yeah.
So you had proper physical withdrawals?
Oh yeah.
You know, it's interesting. When I went to rehab with having drunk and used cocaine for 23 years, they give everyone 4 Valium. You take 2 on the first night, 2 on the second night.
Were you here in Rehab?
No, in South Africa, because you can't sleep and you have the shakes. I left rehab with those 4 Valiums sitting on my bedside table. I didn't have a single physical withdrawal.
What's you had the psychological ones?
Yeah, emotional, psychological, mental withdrawals, but I had zero. Like I slept. I remember saying to I've said this a few times. My first night of rehab, I slept like a fucking baby.
Really?
I had
Like a baby. And the next day I woke up and I'm like, I already feel better.
I had
Which is so weird.
I had physical withdrawals. I had, of course, the emotional one. I started having like crazy dreams. Of course, now I was in a room with guys with now different levels. So there was a heroin guy coming off.
This was here.
Yeah, my first one, place in Karen. There was a guy coming off heroin. So every time I'd see how the shit he was going through, I just catch myself like, what are you whining about?
Yeah.
I ended up drinking my own mouthwash.
Fuck.
Like, bro, I was feeling. I developed like a romance with booze where, first of all, it had to be neat, and then flash the first one, feel that warmth in your stomach, then there's like a sweat that would just come, and I just remember feeling like, so that's years of that, and all of a sudden, it was crazy, it was tough.
Be careful, Boniface Muggy might steal this story. Next press conference,
Shots fired.
I slept at a gas station. Be like, hold on, I've heard this shit before.
Can we spend a bit more time on this before we go to the Middle East?
On my addiction?
No, the sober part of the continent. On FAREED's episode, you mentioned that you did ayahuasca.
Yeah.
I've been, and I think you told him that it's something that I've always wanted to do. I've been fascinated by it, and the assumption is you come out with answers. It shows you what you need to do. How was your experience with that?
Okay, so I also went in there with that whole thing, like I'm going to figure out everything.
Yeah.
And I went in there with my intentions, and it didn't show me that. I explained on the last episode what it showed me. It showed me that I treated women like shit, and my new addiction was hurting women and sex and love and all that. It doesn't give you the answers. It opens the door. Then the work begins.
Supposed to now start the work.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the reintegration is where you find the answers.
So did you purge before? Like, did you go on a detox?
I had 2 weeks of no sex, no...
Sajid has already lost that.
Yeah. He's like, actually, let's move on to the Middle East.
Yeah.
Fuck this conversation. I struggled, bro. Let me tell you, I had a hard time with that. No sex, no meat.
Wait, 2 weeks of sex, you guys, is a guan. Even on a normal, like, 2 weeks
Like, you can't nut at all.
No, that's the thing, right? You cannot...
Oh, you can't bust enough.
Nah, no masturbation, no nothing. Yeah.
And food and everything?
No salt, no garlic, no meat. So, but my partner is vegan.
Hey, Sajid, you've lost that. no meat?
It's just 2 weeks, bro. But
I'm joking, of
I would
course.
say that if you feel a calling, anyone who feels a calling to do ayahuasca, and I want to say this again on this episode, it is not a drug, it is medicine.
medicine, yeah.
I never left ayahuasca thinking, oh, I want to go back next weekend. I was like, I'm done with that shit for a good long while. You know what I mean? Like, mushrooms are like a warm hug. Ayahuasca is a kick in the fucking face.
So were you throwing up during the...
I was very nauseous. There's purging in 3 ways. You shit, you vomit, or you cry. My first night, I cried for like the entire ceremony from start to finish.
So the shit one must be terrible. So you're shitting for hours?
I mean, people just have to go to the bathroom. And first of all, they ask you to wear white. And I'm like, this is like the worst combination, right? You're telling me to wear white, and then I might shit myself, you know?
And so, like, are you hallucinating while you're shitting?
There's some hallucination. I had to go to the bathroom, so then I'll tell you a really funny story. So the shaman, you raise your hand. There's 16 people in a room, right?
Jesus.
And, which is quite a small ceremony. It was really nice and intimate. And I knew, which was nice, is when I got there, I knew some people in that ceremony. Like, I knew them from- Yeah.
Boniface, what are you doing?
Next thing he's gonna be like, yeah, I
That's
know.
a call back. So after I was at Mobile when I did it.
So I raised my hand because I had shit, and you have a bucket to vomit in, and honestly, you hear people like the whole time, but it doesn't really bother you because you're in your own like sort of element, and they tell you don't talk to anyone in the room except for the shaman, the groups.
Yeah.
So there's about, it was beautiful. It's a main shaman. There's live music and all this, right? And I raised my hand, and this guy came to me, and I said I need to go to the bathroom, and he's like, okay, but the 2 downstairs bathrooms are occupied, so we got to go to the one upstairs. So I get to the bottom of those stairs. I'm like at the height of my journey, right? And I'm like, I can't. It's like the fucking Himalayas, bro, And I'm walking up the stairs like this, and the music's playing, and you're kind of like, you're in it, And I finally get to the bathroom, and I sit down on the toilet, and he leaves the door this open, because
just to
make sure. And about 5 minutes, it could have been a minute. It felt like an hour goes by, and then he's like, And he's like, you all right? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, are you ready to go down? And my response was, I'm just going to stay here for the rest of the night. He's like, no, mate, it doesn't work like that. So I having to walk back down the stairs. But it's this beautiful, man, I don't even know how to explain it. I went in there with these intentions that I had set. And none of that came. They say the medicine will show you what you need to see. And nowhere along my previous journey into that did I ever think that I was a poor partner or emotionally abusive person, or just, was with women just for one reason or whatever. That medicine, from the second it kicked in, I heard that voice, and I shared on your podcast.
Yeah,
it just
said,
a
lady or something. Yeah,
it just said, yeah, all the shit you put women through for the last 3 years, you're going to go through it.
So since we're here,
But actually,
sorry.
What I wanted to ask is, like, taking into account his past, his history with addiction, is it something you'd recommend him to do?
100%. Yeah, I did it. And funny enough, I've booked 2 more retreats since November. It was November 2023 that I did the one and only ayahuasca retreat. I've booked 2 more since, and 3 or 4 weeks before that retreat, I've called to cancel. So that in itself shows you it's not a drug.
Okay.
Because I'm not chasing anything with ayahuasca, but I know for a fact I'll do it again.
Yeah.
And the medicine will sort of tell you when you're
And they did this in Lamu,
at the coast.
at the coast.
Yeah.
So since we're here, I have to ask. Let's then live here a bit. So where does that square up with things like DMT or the toad? Because some people swear by
Isn't
DMT.
it DMT? Isn't it a version of DMT?
No, so ayahuasca.
I think DMT is the purest form.
Yeah, which we all have in our bodies,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
which
yeah.
is basically
Naturally.
We
What
dream.
is-
What creates our dreams
and what you release when you die.
When you die,
Yeah,
right.
that's what they say with DMT. So it's the frog, toad, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Look, I think all these medicines have their benefit, whether it's iboga, ayahuasca, psilocybin, ketamine to a degree, which is man-made, which I'm not 100% of a fan of, but I think there are some clinical trials that are going on for addicts with ketamine, iboga as well, DMT, or the frog medicine as they refer to it. I think
toad.
they all have their toad medicine. They all have their benefits, right? I would like to try other ones at some point, but what ayahuasca gave me, one of my intentions, my 2 intentions, one was to connect with my mother who had recently passed at that point, and the other was to understand my addiction. Medicine was like, fuck you, you're not going to see your mom and we're not going to talk about your addiction. But what it did give me, without showing me anything about my addiction during the 4-day retreat, is I don't even take Panadol for pain anymore.
Wow. Okay.
I can naturally, and I promise you this happened through ayahuasca. I can naturally heal my body.
consciously.
Yes, with things like exercise, food, breathing. I was almost this close to back surgery. I shared this with you in January this year, and I had a hernia operation in February last year. I had to stop CrossFit for 2 months. I was limping. I had no feeling in my left leg. I went to bed every night and imagined my leg being healed. I am back to 95% of where I was at CrossFit before. I was booked for back surgery.
I genuinely believe that about the power of the mind. I think you can will things, and not just, of course, health, but generally. If you look at sometimes, if you just take a moment and look at your life, you can almost see how you will yourself, whether good or bad, into specific.
But it's what you give out,
to,
man.
to specific scenarios. And by the way, Marf from Ikonini shouted you out. He watched the episode we did and he was
Nice.
like, whoa, like that 5 years you had to wait was worth it.
Would you be game to doing it?
Because he has back pain and you're saying he's tried everything
Yeah.
and he's like,
Believe.
yeah.
Believe. And just on that note about sort of like, they say live in a mindset of abundance or famine, right? If you live in a mindset of famine, you will always suffer. If you live in a mindset of abundance, you will find a way. And abundance doesn't mean, Porsche Cayenne,
Bezos.
7-bedroom house in Runda.
Yeah.
Abundance can be abundance in relationships. Abundance can be this is what we're doing tonight. This is a reflection of abundance.
But it would seem the people who pull the levers of society understand this profoundly, because if you look at systems where, let's look at like America, for example, where certain groups of people are disenfranchised through things like, when you're given these things every month, it's called
Food
what?
stamps.
Food stamps. There's another name for it.
Yeah. Welfare.
Welfare. Now, welfare is already, you've conquered the mindset of abundance.
Yeah.
I worked in Juba. I used to see what those airdrops used to do to the people, because food is coming on a plane every day.
And they go fucking mental.
Yeah. And bro, if you land in Juba, it's pretty arable. Like we'd land in some of those places and you're like, oh, wait, why aren't you guys farming? Like this place is proper. So for sure, they've understood that profoundly because they know if you keep a certain people in a mindset of minimal thinking, then that's what they'll manifest, and we just stay with them.
But isn't that what Israel is doing to Palestine? As we
What a
speak?
segue.
Yeah. But, yeah. I've been doing this for a few years.
No, I mean, fantastic segue. But just would you be down to doing ayahuasca?
It's too dangerous for me right now because of my career.
Yeah.
So if I was to do it, I'd not even say it on camera. But for me, what the most intriguing thing around all these things, especially now, I'm very curious about DMT because the warping of time. So it's a short trip, but you experience it for a long time.
You die.
Literally. So Joe Rogan says you feel like you've gone to another world, lived a whole other life.
And it's like 2 minutes.
And it's 3 minutes of your day.
Are the guys that do that here?
There's a guy called Ari Shafir.
Okay, so we'll talk offline.
Yeah. I can give you the.
You left him hanging. There's a guy called Ari Shafir who talked about how he took, I can't remember what it was, but he was saying whilst they were podcasting, Ari Shafir is Joe Rogan's very good friend. He's a Jew guy. He used to be walk the door at what's up? That famous comedy club.
The one in LA.
Yeah, what was it called?
Comedy Cellar.
That one.
Yeah.
He used to work there, and then over time he figured out stand-up comedy, became a stand-up comedian, very funny guy. He was saying how the time before a podcast he took, I can't remember which, but one of these. And whilst they were podcasting, he lived a whole other life. Like he lived a whole other life. He had another family. So when he came to, he was like, "Yo,
What the hell just happened?"
I've been living, I've been living a whole
I
other
want a
world."
divorce.
That's insane. That's insane.
So it's crazy, but of course, I think a lot of care, and I think that's something also FAREED has touched on because you're doing it also in a very sane, controlled,
amazing people, amazing group that was the people that held space for us. You know, there was no. I mean, I was in distress for 3 hours and I was calmed down. You know what I mean?
You had people over there with you, yeah?
It was incredible. It was incredible, and I would recommend it to anyone who feels they should do it. I can't speak for DMT or Iboga, although
until next Thursday.
until our next episode, I'm off to the coast after this podcast recording.
But now, I was watching earlier this week. Of course, I love watching Candice Owens, and she, of course, likes to hammer Israel. The reason she fell out with Ben Shapiro, as we know, is Ben Shapiro is the harshest critic of every facet of society, except that one community, Israel, because he's part of it. And once him and Candice broke ranks, it became so apparent, like everything about his persona that a lot of people had bought into just crumbled because, like, wait a minute, so you're not objective for real. You're objective to a point. And once they broke ranks, the wrong expression, once they broke ties, they had initially wanted to do a debate, like public debate. The guy chickened. He couldn't face Candice. So earlier this week, I was also watching some documentary she did around Netanyahu and all of this. So apparently, of course, we all know he's been facing corruption charges for the last, like, I think 6 years or something.
Yeah.
And the evidence has just been overwhelming. And apparently how Israel works, hate them or love them, it's culminating in him going to jail. All he can do is prolong and prolong.
So as long as he stays in power,
Yeah.
he's safe.
That's all. And
in order to do that,
and
he
this
needs to
guy-
create the proxy
Makes sense.
war.
and this guy
Makes
is
sense.
willing
To destroy the world.
to sacrifice the world.
Well, let me tell you, dude.
So he
don't
doesn't cool
fuck
a
with
jail
Iranians.
because he does why he doesn't cool a jail cell.
So you think 9/11 was orchestrated by him because he was close to getting...
No, but these allegations came a lot later than 9/11, the one for the corruption, because it was bribery. Bribery, being given tokens so that you can do favors for people.
I mean, if you take away bacon and alcohol away from me, I'll fly a fucking plane to a building.
With a name like Sajid.
Durable passports,
No,
remember?
but isn't it crazy to think that that's how the world works? And then she proceeds to say, Candice Owens proceeds to say that, she's the one who did the expose on Brigitte Macron being a dude.
I can't see.
And it's
I can't
confirmed.
unsee.
That guy is that's a dude. Yeah, and she has evidence. She presents it well. She's staked her whole career on it. So Trump calls her 3 weeks ago, actually before she gave birth to her last child, and says, "Yo, I love your show, Melania. We love you in the house, all that jazz." And then it's like, "Yo, so the other day I was with Macron. We're negotiating some things. Of course, I'm paraphrasing, and he asked for him to, like, sign this thing. Yo, this thing is, like, as important as World War III. Just stop talking about his wife." Like, for me, that just gave me a perspective of, we think the world is the world scale, is this serious place of
Sophisticated.
you know, no, we're not gonna do that because of baby. You guys, cause stop talking shit about my wife. I don't want to go to jail.
Can I tell you a 9/11 joke?
Yes.
What's the difference? What's the difference between a cow and 9/11?
What?
You can't milk a cow for 14 years.
That's a nice one, man. That's a good. So to think of the level of selfishness that the guys who again run the world, there's literally in this table of or this cabal of people, at least the ones that are public figures that run the world, across the table is a guy who wants his shorty to stop being spoken about, and across the table is another guy who just doesn't want to go to jail, and they're throwing the world to shit because of these things.
I don't understand. Like, it's crazy that the world, this Dave Chappelle calling out DJ Khaled was amazing. DJ Khaled?
Yeah.
It was amazing,
It's
right?
like, for all your noise that you make,
Yeah, and he's like,
you're pretty quiet.
He's like, you're the only fat Palestinian on the planet. You know what I mean? Right? Yeah. I mean, it's brilliant. You know what I mean? But for all of...
And he's on Weight Watchers, so...
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, it's
No.
Chappelle...
He's been on Weight Watchers for like 10
That's
years.
fuck
so
all
good.
for him. Yeah, that's the worst advertisement for Weight Watchers. But it just blows my mind that the world is just watching. I mean, forget Iran. Iran will take care of Iran. And like I always say, like when Israel attacked Iran, I was like, let me tell you, they're fucked. Israel's fucked because Iranians don't care. Like, they will die for it.
But I believe that the Supreme Leader also used that opportunity to get rid of some guys he didn't know how to get rid of.
Yeah, sure. The people they say were spying for
It's
Israel.
like, Sajid, Sajid's my friend, but...
Yeah, to behead him. Yeah. But the world is watching, and I mean, this has been said a million times, so I'm not really saying anything that hasn't been said. And I wish I had more unique opinions about Gaza, but I think everything's been said that needs to be said. The world is watching children die. End of story.
It's fucked.
We are fucked as a human race that this is happening. We could all go out there and volunteer. You know what I mean? We could all do that. And everyone is sitting there behind their fucking, myself included, behind their Instagram and their Twitter and or X and Facebook and saying, oh, this is terrible. Oh, how can, the U.S., support
Palestine
Israel?
flag.
Yeah. It's all bullshit. There's volunteer programs. Get off your fucking ass. Go there. I myself, I'm too scared. I'm sorry. I don't want to die. But truthfully, if you want to make a difference, no amount of Palestinian flags and I stand with Palestine posts are going to change the situation. And I'm sorry to say it.
But I think if you're a person of notoriety like you are, we will be eventually. I think what you can do with your voice, of course, can do something, as opposed to like someone who's just a person posting on Palestine.
No, I agree.
So
I do
think
post.
In
I do post.
In our capacities, if I had if I could fly some aid there, I'd gladly do that as well. But I think the way when you get to the crux of how that whole thing began, it literally was done in the full awareness of Netanyahu. It was what's the date? The first when the Palestine, the Hamas
When
attacked.
Hamas paraglided into fucking Israel. That was crazy, though.
Those guys, but it was orchestrated by these
it
guys
was.
to justify them going in. And
it was.
have you seen the aerial shots? Put some of those aerial shots of Gaza right now. And this guy likes sending me stuff. For me, it's too sad. Like, there's some things he sent me. I'm like, bro, I'm trying to get a nap here, bro. Like,
I mean,
I don't want to see
the things in Instagram when you like one post, it takes you to another. So I was always trying to ignore it, and then there was just this one weekend where my Instagram reels were just this and this and this, and man, I'm seeing. The saddest thing is when a father has to bury his children, and you're
so
seeing
funny you
this
say
guy. He's taking his daughter out of the rubble, and man, I just messaged Eric. I'm like, imagine if that's your daughter.
And how does this not breed radicals? Like, have you heard how young kids are talking?
Oh, no. If I was a Palestinian kid, 7 years old, I'm death to America.
Exactly.
Forever.
I'm death to Israel now. You know what I mean? And I'm not even touched by it. And going back to the dads, if you watch any of this content in sort of large numbers, the people that are struggling the most, Men's Mental Health Month just wrapped up in June, is the fathers. The mothers are the strong ones. If you watch any narrative from Palestine, the women are keeping that shit together. The dads are I mean,
it's because men we don't do well with helplessness.
yeah.
When you feel like you can't control, or your ability to like lead or protect is taken from you, for men you can't deal.
No, I mean, I have two sons. As a father of two sons, if anything happened to them, whether it was in this situation or anything, how do you bury your children? There's been more parents have buried their children in Palestine than the other way around, for one. And it's not natural to bury your children. And my partner and I were looking at adopting a child, and we looked, talking about we should adopt from Syria, Afghanistan, or Palestine, where these kids have lost families. And let me tell you the most fucked up thing I found out. If you want to adopt a Palestinian child, you've got to get an approval from the Israeli government.
How fucked is that?
Oh, that's crazy.
So we're like, fuck that. You know what I mean? This is crazy. This is just full on control. 6 million Jews were fucking killed by Hitler, and you're turning around and doing exactly the same shit, if not worse.
Yeah, worse, yeah.
And how you can sleep at night, you know what I mean?
And then Trump.
But imagine this. So sorry to cut you. The thought process behind these guys is, all right, some kid punches me, I decide to shoot him back. That's not revenge.
But you see, that's
and then you don't just shoot the kid. You wipe out his entire family and continue to wipe out anyone that comes.
What's crazy to me about that is that's the mainstream narrative. The fact that behind the scenes they orchestrated it and now they're justifying it. And the same guy who orchestrated it is justifying how crazy they've had to respond because he doesn't want to go to jail. Like, for me, and remember, jail in Israel is probably not like committee. Like, you guys, take your L, man. You took some gifts from guys.
You're a former head of state. You're going to get a nice room.
You took some gifts from guys, sour, go do your 10 years like a G. Like,
what's the reason for them being this way? I mean, just to
Power,
literally mass extinct an entire segment of humanity.
Yeah, but there's a bitterness to what happened in the Holocaust, right? It's never gone. Jews have always felt like victims, right? Even though they run the world, let's be honest. You know what I mean? America's run by Jews,
Drake.
Yeah, but
but for real.
But
It's
truthfully,
it's well documented.
the victimhood from something that happened in the 40s, it's ridiculous now. You know what I mean? Like, move on. You know what I mean? And to a degree, let's call a spade here. To a degree, Black America still falls back on slavery. But now you see Black America's emerged, right?
But pathetically so, and that's gonna sound nice. I'm like, it's because you're African, you're Uncle Tom. The other day, my instructor from Canada, flight safety, called me. He's an African American, former police chief, Columbus, Ohio, who's now trained us on the aircraft I fly, and he's always anti that. So one thing he always loves about training Africans is we're not aware that we're black. Us guys are just dudes.
Oh, you weren't slaves, right?
So he just used to be like, you guys don't have that stigma. And he said for him, because he's an older guy, he's like in his 60s, it's a conscious effort to not fall victim to that shit. So it's sad to see me that African American, and of course now the same way your timeline has had, I've been going this for lack of a better word, I don't want to use the N word, but anti this kind of behavior, this kind of victimhood, this kind of us mentality that's been going on for so long. People are over it. And even African Americans, a good number of them are over.
Yeah. There's an emergence of where our own people. But I mean, look at Indians. I mean, I am one, obviously, but
Are you?
Yeah. Well, sort of genetically, that sort of the colonialism in India was quite bad, right? Much like it was here. And Indians were just like, okay, fuck it, let's move on. Let's move to the rest of the world. And
what was that
take over.
factor about? Because how that mental switch, how was it done so fast?
I don't know. But what is it about Jews that they're saying, in the 40s, whatever. Okay, fuck, dude, like Germany's moved on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you move on, you should move on too.
And then the interesting about this group of people, they're not disenfranchised. They're running the world.
Yeah.
And they're still whining. I mean, there's some of the best movies. Schindler's List, one of my favorite movies. That was an amazing movie.
Made by a Jew, about a Jew.
Of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the world is a strange place and it gets strange. I'm seeing Trump, like, I like what Trevor Noah, I'm not a huge Trevor Noah fan, but I like what he said the other day. It's like Trump is like, he's babysitting kids that he just can't get a hold on.
You saw him swearing.
Like one moment
He was pissed.
I've negotiated this thing, and then as soon as I jet out, these guys are doing their own shit.
Yeah.
So I think the world, the truth is stranger than fiction continues to ring true as we continue to understand life.
So on this, on the particular aspects of racism and with America and whatever's going on in the Middle East, don't you think in Kenya at least we're very blessed in the sense that we don't really experience it to that level?
No.
I mean, it's again, I'll get the odd matatu guy saying, "We mwindi songa takataka,"
Which is fine,
which
dude.
is
You know, that's okay.
but I'm like,
But
"My
we can
car's a
bond
taka-taka."
together.
No, but also just
I
think
don't
about.
Yeah, we don't have that,
No,
right?
but think about the way I was accepted as a Kenyan on radio.
Exactly,
Like, there's
yeah.
like people didn't give a fuck that I was Indian. You know what I mean? And that's awesome.
I saw Anthony Jeselnik, you know him?
Yeah,
Comedian?
yeah,
He had a
he's
jo-
so good.
He saw his
He's so
joke
good.
yesterday. He's like, I've never understood racism. Like, why would you hate a whole group of people for behaving in a certain way?
Yeah, you gotta love. He is.
He's so good. He's
There's,
so
there's,
good.
there's a couple of Instagram famous comedians. Matt Rife is another one.
yes, Matt Rife is
Phil Hadley, have you seen him? The Canadian guy. Fuck, he's hilarious. Does really good crowd work as well. But Anthony Jeselnik is
He's too
like
good.
so dark. It's brilliant.
In fact, I like that. Let's end it on a high note on entertainment because we love entertainment. And it's a bit dark though. But do you still watch movies in theater?
Yeah.
So we watched Sinners around the same time. I watched it first. This was like, what, 2-3 months ago? 2 months ago?
Yeah, about two
I haven't
months ago.
seen it. Yeah.
So I was going through a rough time that time, a lot of anxiety. Just I was working so hard and all of that. So I kept drinking way too much coffee. So I kept having anxiety attacks. My belief system was also under siege. Like in terms of I believe in God, I believe in a supreme being. That was under siege, and that happens periodically. And for me, whenever I have atheistic ideations, it's usually my mind trying to trick me into getting high. I've come to learn. So
Let go and let God. Yeah.
yeah. So I watched Sinners and the satanic undertones. So it brought me back. You know, it's supposed to work the other way. For me, just rewired me like, oh my God, there's that proverbial good and evil that's still happening. And the more years pass, 10 years ago, a loose triangle in a video was like, whoa, did you see that? Now the actual fight between good and evil is being presented on screen.
Yeah.
And the evil is being presented as, come on, man, come on.
Yeah, it's nice.
Come
It's nice. Why
on.
don't you come over on this side? Have you seen the movie?
So it was about...
Can we spoil it for you?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, that's fine.
So, okay, go ahead. Okay, so it's set back in it's a Western of sorts, and it's about blues music. 'Cause this guy has a twin brother. So before you know it, it's about vampires. So at some point, what they're trying to do is to show you that, so once you get bitten by the vampire, of course, you become a vampire. And of course, that comes with, I think they say what, unlimited life?
Unlimited life, strength, sort of vitality.
So-
You're going beyond. Yeah.
So every time someone, and it's like we're friends, like all of us in here, Venal, Fox, Sajid, FAREED, and I. So I get beaten, and then I'm somehow outside the house, and I want to come and bite one of you to join me because I'm like, you guys, this side is nice, man. You guys are missing out. You guys come and look at you with your chained selves and just restrictive selves. But the crux is, for me to come and bite you, you have to let me in. Like, I cannot just force my way into the house. So it has to be a conscious allowing
You
of.
have to allow. Yeah.
So, and I found that that's biblical almost.
What a great analogy for life.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
good versus evil.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And
yeah.
actually, it's one of the undertones is music is actually the gateway to the devil. And what they do is, in order to entice you, they do this song and dance and tell you, why don't you come outside over here? It's fun. And you're sort of given this freedom of, you live forever. But then what it hints is, you'll come here, but you'll be damned forever. Your soul will be lost. But then they don't make it seem that way. And again, to add on to your point, is there's so many things being put in our face. And one of them recently, Jeff Bezos's the rocket. What was it called? Blue Moon or something?
Blue Origin.
Blue Origin. Have you seen the logo?
It's satanic.
Flip it upside down.
It's a Baphomet.
So it shows basically like a
that
rocket
on
on three
screen.
legs. If you flip it upside down, it's actually the
Baphomet, yeah.
Baphomet. Horns.
Right.
NASA,
It's in your face.
But NASA, Satan backwards, T minus. T minus, this is that's Satan. NASA without the T. It's all of that satanic shit that's been happening. But you've been high society. In Kenya, have you interfaced with any occult stuff? Finger of God,
Freemasons?
Freemasonry.
Yeah, I've interfaced with some.
Talk about it.
We're not allowed to talk about the Masons. No, I almost became a Freemason, but I decided against it at the last minute. Actually, on the day of my induction, I decided not to do it.
Why is that?
I don't know. I something just didn't sit right with me. That's all.
So they approached you?
Yeah, I was approached by.
Absolutely, then it's occult.
I was
Because
approached by.
they look for the highest level of talent at in different spheres. So
Yeah.
I mean, bro, Capital FM
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
peak.
Yeah, and the interview was a bit weird as well.
Where was
it? No, it was like like I actually was. I think I actually did sign something where you can't talk about what had happened. But I went to the interview. I said great. Then I got a call a few weeks later saying they loved you.
the Masons. I went to my Masons. They love you.
Yeah. And then on the day of the induction, man, I was like, really? The day before, I was like, man, I don't know. And then the day, like 6-7 hours before my induction, I had my tuxedo and everything ready. I sent them an email actually, because we were communicating by email, and just said, upon further consideration, I've decided I'm not going to join the Masons.
And that was his last day on radio. They've approached my brother also a few years ago, so he turned it down. But I'm curious, do you think, in your opinion, because obviously you turned it down, and I believe I think instinct is the natural compass God gave us. So whatever stopped you instinctively probably speaks to what they're about. There's something there that just didn't sit right with your...
Yeah, because I'm also a Rotarian, which I really enjoy, Rotary Club of Nairobi.
They say it's also a...
But it's not, though. It's
Okay.
not. It's very much what you see on Rotary is what it is. There's nothing weird about it. I'm on the board for a second year in Rotary Board of Nairobi, second year in a row as the director of public image. Yeah, let's hire a former drug addict as our director. Anyway, no, but Rotary is really just a group of incredible people that just want to make the world a better place. Truthfully,
you think if I for content's sake wanted to go to the lodge, Masonic lodge, would they allow you?
No,
because I saw county government there.
Depends on which lodge as well.
Yeah.
Both.
There are
They
quite a few
cleared
lodges.
when county government was saying they had a bill of 20 million back in land rates.
Yeah.
They cleared it in the morning. Yo, what are you talking about?
guy just looked beneath the cushions of the couch.
And then they wanted to
20
sue county government for daring to even say that. Yo, what do you mean we?
Yeah, it's a weird.
But they say, and sorry to get down. I love this shit. But they say, and I hope you have time, another 30 minutes. You do?
About 10.
Okay. They say, what's this place? They say Kenya has a very strong spiritual meaning in the world, apparently. They apparently the Mount Kenya, people swear by the fact that world leaders always come by here, there's some power they seek, and there's a place they go, somewhere in Mount Kenya. I know the Ambanis were here 3 weeks ago, and they had to go. Brayo flew them by there.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did you take them? Which hotel?
I'm not sure.
How much was it per night? How much is it?
I don't know. What do you think about that, though, generally?
I mean, from the internet perspective, I'll tell you this. Kenya is the gateway to East Africa.
Yeah.
All the undersea cables land in Mombasa and then serve the region. So, I mean, just think about that. The data flow, if you forget Tanzania, Central Africa has to come to Mombasa just to get access to the internet. So maybe that adds some different
But
layers.
also, I think from a healing perspective, I think there are some. I can say that the things like the Indian Ocean that has great healing powers, Mount Kenya, whatever that is that they do there. That apparently there is great healing powers in the country.
What about as a people? You guys are well exposed. Kenyans are superb, man.
Yeah,
Bro,
Yeah,
we're a superpower in just our presence, our personas, our knowledge base. Employee-wise, if you ask any international-based company, who would they hire in East Africa? The first pick is always a Kenyan.
Because it's expertise and work ethic.
Bro, we're hard workers, man. I mean, not to shit on Tanzanian and Ugandan, but if you compare the
Let's
work,
shit on them. They're fucking slow, bro.
Kenyans
Put keyboard on the screen saying you don't even want that fucking English.
Let me take Uganda. The president is almost dying. They might as well. And who wants that stupid English they speak there?
yeah. Kenya is, bro, our work ethic is just, we're on another level, to be honest.
And Nigerians are just too much attitude.
Yeah.
They're hard to work with. I have some really I worked a lot in Lagos during my DSTV days. I have some really good friends that I've stayed in. The Nigerians, if you're a brother to a Nigerian, you're a brother for life.
If you're an enemy, you're the worst enemy.
Yeah. But if you go there, you're taking I made some really sort of relatively high profile friends. When I landed in Lagos, dude, last time, this is a true story. Last time I landed in Lagos, I get there and this guy just walks up to me, short little Nigerian guy in normal sort of Nigerian, the outfits, the short, like a safari suit, but the Nigerian one. And he's like, give me your passport. So I'm like, okay. And then I started thinking to myself, that guy's not even he's even an airport employee. I'm just giving this motherfucker my passport. 10 minutes later, he's like, come. It's a phone call someone makes. You don't question. There's an immigration line of 1,000 people. You're not even like when you make friends in Nigeria, especially like people that have a little bit of power,
Yeah.
you are like,
You're sorted.
bro,
sorted
you
out.
don't even look for a cab at the airport. You know, Nigerians are beautiful human beings. When you're in their family and let's say quote
They
unquote
take care of
family,
you.
that's it. You know, and that's a beautiful thing about Nigerians. But to work with Nigerians, my friend, that's a different story.
I'm actually heading to Nigeria in a couple of weeks. Airport experience, how was
It's
that?
fucking awful.
Shit.
It's
Yeah,
fucking
I've been
awful.
told.
Are you like VIP or?
Yeah, so apparently, we get like a brochure of the type of security guys you want. So you get armored personnel, you get guys to follow you in a, what do you call the
Convoy.
Convoy. You can actually order that stuff. So
Oh, you'll be fine, dude.
You'll be fine, man. You're not going there as a traveler.
That little short guy Ali will come and take your passport, and you'll be sitting there for like 20 minutes going,
I mean,
"Who
because,
the
yeah,
fuck was that guy?" You know?
But as we close now, you guys are both people.
Windies.
But it's been a fantastic engagement. As we close, I want you guys to, because you're both people who are doing a lot of interesting stuff in this sphere and beyond, just as service announcements for the viewer. What are you guys working on? What you like to talk about? I know you're doing the treatment center. Whatever you'd like to share, feel free to talk to the audience. Talk about it, man, briefly.
Well, it's a treatment center.
Put it on the screen.
Still, yeah, it's called the Full Circle Healing Center. I'm still working in the production space. I'm still making commercials and documentaries and things. And yeah, really, my only outlet in the media world in the last month has been on with you, actually,
Amazing.
and I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. It's been, I've also really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah,
No, I need to get you on Coffee Pump. I need to do a midnight coffee run with you.
that's fine.
I think that would be so good. That would be so good,
Be
man.
epic.
We'll probably get carjacked. Drew Wendy's driving around after midnight.
If you count fish.
Yeah, we can't reach exactly.
What are you working on, man? We're working on some things together, but what are you working on? What do you like to talk about?
I think the main thing is our fitness stuff. We need to be accountable to each other, but we need to do one. A CrossFit and a High Rocks, we need to vlog that and see how he kicks our ass.
Come.
Some good content.
We'll do it on EOTWE and we'll do it on Coffee Pump. We've got a very talented team behind
Shout
the
out
scenes.
Fox, Venal, Vish,
Yes.
and Kim.
And then Coffee Pump, again, we need to have this same conversation on Coffee Pump.
A trio episode.
A trio. A manage toi.
Yeah.
We need to do
But
that.
we can drive straight into a synagogue.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Shit's gonna be cut out of this show. I know it.
if the YouTube still exists
After
at this
the
point, if you haven't subscribed, guys, come on, please do subscribe. It's been another trio episode. Fred Khimani, Sajid Vayani. I just love saying that. Every other time with Eric, trio episode, it's a wrap.
Cheers.